Hey everyone, retirement planning. It can feel kind of like trying to assemble furniture with those instructions that just have pictures, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Like where do you even start?
yeah, definitely. It can be a little intimidating to get started.
Right. Exactly. So today we're going to try to make it a little easier on ourselves. We're doing a deep dive into this article called Planning for Retirement: 3 Crucial Moves Everyone Should Make Before 2025.
3 crucial moves, that's right.
Yeah. And the best part is you don't have to be a financial expert to understand it.
Exactly. It's really about actionable steps that anyone can take right now
Mhm.
to start feeling more in control of their future.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Move number one is all about figuring out this whole Social Security thing. Have you ever checked your estimated benefits online?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of wild, right? Like
Yeah.
getting a glimpse into the future.
It is. And it's super easy to do. You just create a My Social Security account.
Yeah.
And you can see statements that estimate your future benefits based on what you're earning now.
Okay, wait, so that's based on what you're making now. But what if your earnings change down the road? How much can you actually rely on those early estimates?
That's a great point. It's true, those numbers can fluctuate a bit. But even having a rough idea, even years away from retirement can be so helpful. It's like having a roadmap. It helps you figure out how much you need to be saving on your own.
Right. So if you see that your estimated benefit is kind of lower than you were hoping for, you might need to kick your savings into high gear.
Exactly. It helps you plan accordingly.
Gotcha. Makes total sense. Okay, so speaking of savings, move number two is all about maxing out those 401ks and IRAs. And get this, for 2024, the contribution limit for 401ks is $23,000.
Yep. And don't forget IRAs. Those are capped at $7,000.
Okay, I know what some of you are thinking right now. Yeah, right, maxing those out is easy if you have tons of extra cash lying around. But realistically, a lot of people are dealing with debt or, trying to build an emergency fund. It's not always feasible to hit those max limits, right?
You're absolutely right. And it's not about putting yourself in a tough spot financially just to reach those maximums. It's more about consistency. Like, even if you can only contribute a small amount each month, the magic of compound interest can really make a difference over time.
Right. It's like that saying, slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. And think about it. Even if you can just invest like an extra $50 a week, over 20 years, let's say assuming a 7% average annual return, you could end up with an extra $118,000. That's huge.
Wow. Okay. So small but consistent contributions can really snowball into something significant. That's actually really encouraging to hear.
Yeah. And also, if you're 50 or older, there's also catch-up contributions. They can really give you a boost if you're trying to catch up on savings.
Oh, that's right. I always forget about those. Okay. So we've talked about Social Security, we've covered maxing out contributions, but retirement planning, it's not just about crunching numbers, right? It's also about figuring out the lifestyle you actually want to live. 100%. That brings us to move number three, which is all about really defining your vision for retirement.
Yeah. This is where things get exciting. It's not just about where will I live? It's more like painting a picture of your dream retirement. What do you want your days to look like? Do you want to travel? Take up new hobbies? Stay put? And I think this is especially important for couples to talk about, right?
Absolutely. Imagine one person is dreaming of backpacking through Europe, and the other is picturing quiet mornings on the porch with a cup of coffee and a good book. Those are very different visions. It's important to be on the same page.
Yeah, you don't want to wait until you're actually retired to
Mhm.
realize you have completely different ideas about what retirement should look like.
Exactly. So even if you're years away from retirement, having those conversations now can help you avoid potential conflicts down the road.
It's like setting a destination on your GPS, right? Even if you take some detours along the way, you still have a general sense of where you're headed.
I like that analogy. Now I know what some of you are thinking. But I'm decades away from retirement. Why should I worry about this now? I get it. It's easy to put it off when it feels so far away. But even if you're just starting out, having some kind of idea of what you want retirement to look like can be really helpful.
It's like planting a seed. It might not be a full-grown tree yet, but you're giving it a chance to grow.
I like that. Okay, so we've talked about location, lifestyle, but there's more to it, right? What about things like healthcare costs? That's a big one.
Yeah, definitely. Healthcare is a huge part of retirement planning. As we get older, those costs can really add up. It's smart to start thinking about things like Medicare and long-term care insurance.
Right. No one wants to be caught off guard by a huge medical bill when they're supposed to be enjoying retirement.
Exactly. And, while we're on the topic of potential costs, Downsizing is another thing to consider.
Oh, yeah. Downsizing. Whether it's moving to a smaller place or just getting rid of clutter, it can free up a lot of like mental space and financial resources.
Totally. Imagine having less stuff to worry about and more money to spend on the things you love.
Right. And speaking of things you love, that's a big part of this whole retirement vision thing. It's not just about not working, it's about filling your time with things you actually enjoy doing.
Absolutely. Think about those hobbies you've always wanted to try, or the places you've always wanted to travel to. Retirement can be a time to really explore your passions.
Okay, so we've got healthcare downsizing passions. It's starting to feel like a lot to juggle. Where do we even begin with all this?
That's where communication comes in. Like if you're part of a couple, sit down and have an honest conversation about what you each want retirement to look like. What are your must-haves? What are your dreams?
It's like creating a vision board together for your future, a mix of practical stuff and fun stuff.
Exactly. And you might be surprised by what you learn about each other's priorities.
And it's not like you have to stick to this plan rigidly, right? Life happens, things change. It's more about having a general direction.
Right? It's a starting point,
Yeah.
and you can always adjust it as you go along.
So it's like checking in with your retirement GPS every now and then to make sure you're still on track.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so just to recap our three crucial moves. We've got figuring out Social Security, maxing out retirement contributions, and defining your retirement vision. But these aren't just one-time things, right?
No, definitely not. These are things you'll want to revisit every so often. See how you're doing, make adjustments if you need to.
It's like giving your retirement plan a regular checkup.
Exactly.
Well,
To make sure everything is running smoothly.
now I know this can all feel a little overwhelming, especially if you're just getting started with this whole retirement planning thing.
I hear ya. But the good news is you don't have to do it all at once.
Right. Baby steps.
Exactly. So let's put it back to you, our amazing listeners.
Yeah.
If planning for retirement is a marathon, not a sprint, what's one small step you can commit to taking today based on what we've talked about?
You know what's really cool about this whole thing? Once you start taking those steps yourself, you might actually inspire the people around you to start thinking about their own retirement too.
Oh, for sure. It's contagious in a good way.
Right, like you start having these conversations and suddenly everyone's like, wait a minute, maybe I should be thinking about this too.
Exactly. It's kind of like a chain reaction of financial awareness.
And it's awesome. Like we're not just talking about securing our own futures, we're talking about helping others do the same.
Yeah, totally. It's about empowering each other.
So before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with this thought. It's okay if you don't have everything figured out right now.
That's so important. It's not about being perfect.
Right. Don't get bogged down in the details or feel like you have to have all the answers immediately.
Yeah, just focus on making progress. Like if you set up that My Social Security account today, that's a win.
Exactly. Celebrate those small victories. They all add up.
And the more you learn, the more confident you'll become.
And you know what? The more you'll start to see retirement not as something scary, but as something really exciting.
100%. It's about freedom. It's about doing the things you love.
So to all our listeners out there, remember this. You have the power to create the retirement you want.
Yeah. Start planning. Start dreaming. And don't be afraid to ask for help along the way.
That's right. There are so many resources out there to support you. All right, folks, that's a wrap on this deep dive into retirement planning.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
And remember, keep learning, keep growing, and keep that retirement dream alive.